Hi, in this video I will talk about Oracle Cloud AR netting. Our agenda will be netting definition, setup steps as a very important, what is a netting process, how to create and generate settlement and agreement, how to generate a netting as a settlement, create netting reports such as letter or netting emails, action a user can perform on a settlement. Let's start by the definition of the netting. The netting feature enables the automatic netting of Oracle Payables and Oracle Receivables transactions within a legal entity. Either your Payables Managers or Receivables Manager or Netting Manager can define a netting agreement that incorporates the netting business rules and the transaction criteria needed to support your netting practices. The netting process automatically creates the payables payment and receivables receipts required to clear a selected number of payables and receivables transactions. A typical scenario, transactions are performed between payables and receivables for a single third party, netting offset outstanding balances by comparing the open amounts in payables and receivables. Access netting functions through payables and receivables products. Access to the netting user interface is provided through the payments work area and the account receivables work area. We will see that in the netting agreement setup section. What is our assumptions and prerequisites for the netting? You have to assume that you already have been set up the following: a data security, refer to the Fusion Security topical available on the cloud oracle.com, geographies, enterprise structure, suppliers, customers, procurement business function, common options for payables and receivables. Oracle recommended that the implementation project is complete for your organization before commencing the feature-specific setup. Also, the netting manager executes the netting process for the legal entity level. Separate netting settlements are created for each legal entity and business. What is the setup steps? Setup type here for the netting, some of them mandatory, the other is optional. As you know, mandatory it's must to set up it. The optional is up to you or up to depends on the organization requirement or business requirement. Let's start by the first one. First one as a security, assigning the netting rule to the users who will create netting agreement and the netting settlement. There is one duty rule as customer and supplier, as you see here, balance netting. You have to assign this to the user. I will show you each step now in the Oracle, but let me give you a brief for the setup steps. Second one, manage payment method is a mandatory. Manage document sequence categories, very important, it's optional. Manage bank accounts, mandatory. Manage receipt class and methods, mandatory. Allow payment for unrelated transactions, it's mandatory if netting for multiple business unit, more than one business unit. Manage receivable transactions types, mandatory. Manage standard lookup, there are 3 lookup, this is the first one, optional, and all of them optional. Pay group, optional. Netting letter email subject setup, also optional. So let's start to To show you these setup steps, I will start by assigning the netting rule, duty rule, customer and supplier balance netting. Let me navigate to Oracle and Security Console. I already did all of this setup, but also I will share with you. Because this one is a duty rule, in Oracle Fusion you cannot assign a duty rule to user. You have only to assign job rule. So because this duty rule you cannot assign to the users who will create netting agreement and the netting installments. So what you have to do, go to rules, create a rule. You can give a name as 00 netting. Here also 00 netting. Category financial job rules. Click next. Again next. Once you scroll to rule hierarchy, here you have to add a rule as our duty rule. What is this? Customer and supplier balance netting. Customer and supplier balance netting duty. Once you assign add rule membership, close it. Now you add it. Next. Here you can add the users who will go to make or create the netting agreement and netting installment. Search by the user, for example, any one of these, for example this, but I will not assign to my user because I already created one before and did it. Add, close, summary, next, save and close. So this is the first step. A duty rule. You cannot assign duty rule to the user. You have only to assign job rule. So first create a new job and assign this duty rule. So this is the first one as a security to assigning the netting rule. Second one is netting or manage payment method. A netting payment method can be set up to identify the payable invoices that are netted. So you have to navigator and setup and maintenance and manage payment method. So again, I will cancel, go to setup and maintenance, select financial as a offering, go to payables or payment, manage payment method. Here you can search by the code as a netting, search this. You have to enable the code must be netting. This is the standard one. You can define a new one or keep it as it is, and you have go to payables after that and enable for use in payables. So this is the second steps for edit payment method. Third one as document sequence categories. Document sequence categories is very important because system will generate the sequence for the receipt and payment. If you enable or enforce the sequence for receivables and payables from GL. So if you in the specify ledger options, you have to enable or enforce the sequence for payables and receivables. If I go to general ledger, You can specify ledger option. After you select your ledger, you go down for the sequence. Here I sequence by legal entity, must, and here you can enforce document sequence for payables and receivables, or payable only or receivable only. So what we have to do, we have to go to cancel, again go to setup and maintenance. I will go to global search, manage sequence, search. Here for the manage document sequence category, you have to define one category for the application payables as category code netting. So category name, I already defined it before. Here you have to select payables as application. What is the category code netting? Category name, module, table, this, and descriptions. For example, if I need to create a new one, just click here. The same. What is the application payables? Category code as a text, name also text, module, table, and descriptions. And this is by default. If not default, you have to define the same. Just take the table, copy, paste, and enter whatever your description and category name, and the application is payables. After you define manage document sequence categories, you have to define the sequence. So again, here the same, you have to go to manage document sequence. Because I defined before, so I will search by netting. Payment, okay, search. This is for 2023. I defined a new sequence. This is the name, payables, gapless. Here I determine the type is legal entity, not ledger, start date, and assign it to netting payment. Again, if you need to create a new one, here you will enter, for example, netting, payables, again payables, application, here gapless, here legal entity, start date, end date, then go to assignment and select netting payment or payment netting. Netting payment. So you have to define first document category and document sequence and assign it to the category. Cancel. The other one, the same for Aura AP / AR netting. Sorry, I have to select it here. Aura _AB / AR netting. I think this also standard from Oracle. You have also to create a sequence for it. So let me take it, copy, cancel. Again, go to manage document sequence, select or search by category, search. I defined one and I named it ABARNet, the same gapless legal entity, start date, end date, and assign it to our Aura AB_AR netting. That means that one category for accounts payables, one category for account receivables. Let's go back to the slides. So now we finished the security as a netting rule. manage payment method, document sequence. The next one is manage bank account. A netting bank account is a technical account and must be assigned to netting agreements. To enable it, you have to select the netting account field for the bank account setup for your legal entity. So let's show you in the system. Cancel. Done. I will go to cash management, manage bank account. I define before bank name as a netting. Let me enter netting. This is our bank account. In general, whatever bank you have to enable netting account. First one, this must be active. Then go to business unit access the business unit. After you access the business unit, click on the business unit and assign the payment method aura underscore ep/ar netting as a netting payment. This is must. Very, very important step. Again, in general, you have to enable netting account with active. Go to business unit, access the business unit. After access or assign whatever you want from the business unit, click on it and assign the payment method. This is the how to manage bank account. Next step, manage receipt class and method. Again, close. Done. Done. We can go to Receivables, manage, select all, and search for manage receipt method or receipt class and method. Manage receipt class. Manage receipt class and method. Again, manage receipt class and method. And search for aura underscore APAR netting. Search. This is our. And here you have to, what is the receipt method? This is our receipt methods. Here you can assign the bank account. What is the remittance bank account? This bank account will be used for the receipts. So before we go to the netting bank account and enable netting and access it to the business unit. Here you have to go to receipt methods and assign the remittance bank account. Whatever bank you already enabled the netting for it, you have to come here and assign it. For the receivables system options, there are two setup steps that affect the netting process. To process the cash receipts within receivables, you must allow the payment for unrelated transactions if you want to net for multiple customers in settlement. Additionally, you can fine-tune the types of transactions to be eligible for netting, but these steps will be furthered during make the netting agreement setup action. So let me show you now in the receivable system options the option of the allow payment of unrelated transactions. So here I'm talking about this number 6. Cancel. Done. Go to up, manage receivables, manage receivable system option, select the business unit, search, again select business unit. For the cash processing, here allow payment of unrelated transactions. As I mentioned in the slide, mandatory if netting for multiple business unit. Here. Here. Else خلاص no need to check it. The next step is manage receivable transaction type is mandatory. So again here finish, cancel, done. Go to manage receivable transaction type. You can go to global search. Transaction type. Here. To control which types of receivables include or exclude for netting, in some cases, certain types of transactions may need to be excluded from the agreement between the deploying entity and the trading partner. For example, credit memo, invoice type. Similarly, the netting agreement may only cover the transaction related to a specific division or business purpose. To exclude or include the transaction type, as you know, in Oracle e-business, during define the agreement, you can mention whatever the transactions type will be include or exclude. The same in Fusion, during enter or create the netting agreement, you will mention whatever transaction type will be include or exclude for both payables and receivables. Here there are 3 steps as optional related to the standard lookup. First one, as you see here, standard lookup netting group setup. Netting group allows the netting manager to optionally create settlements for multiple agreements at the same time. You have to implement netting agreement to group together similar business related agreement for settlement. The navigation will be navigator, setup and maintenance, manage standard lookup. For example, if you want to net for different types of trading partners or industries, for example, retail, banking, distributors, enter the netting group that can be associated to an agreement. This means that if you want to net for only the agreements that are, for example, for petroleum partner group, you can signify this when creating a settlement. So the netting process will ignore netting for the other agreements that aren't assigned to the petroleum netting group. Oracle also have a seeded lookup type for this purpose, aura_je_net_group. So I need to mention one point here that I will attach the document in the description of this video. So no need to save or write anything. I will give you access to download it from the description of this video. Here the next one is a pay group. As you know, the pay group Whilst the knitting group controls the type of agreement to settle, pay group functionality can help control the types of payables transaction to include or exclude when building a knitting settlement. If, for example, you know which transactions are eligible for knitting when the transactions are entered manually, spreadsheet, import, etc., the payables invoices can be created with a predefined pay group that can be assigned to your agreement. You have also to navigator to manage payable lookup in the setup maintenance, search for the pay group lookups and add lookup code for your knitting pay group. Also, the knitting agreement can then control the payable invoices to select based on the pay group setup. This is an optional setup. If you don't use pay group to filter the payable invoices eligible for knitting, then the settlement process will select all the invoices that meet the criteria regardless of which pay group is assigned to an invoice. To default a pay group for invoice for a specific customers, enter the pay group at the supplier level. Third one is knitting letter email subject. The knitting letter and the knitting reversal letter can be optionally emailed to the third party. This is also as an optional setup. Also, you have to navigate to manage standard lookup in the setup maintenance and search for aura underscore ge underscore net underscore letter lookup type and enter the email subject. Also, I will mention all of this in the document. Maybe you will use so you can follow the same steps. Then, next slide. This is the setup steps. This is the knitting rule, manage payment method, manage document sequence, bank account, receipt class methods, allow payment for unrelated, only mandatory if there are multiple business units, manage receivable transactions, and 3 lookup as optional. Now we will talk about the knitting summarize of the knitting process as follows. Prerequisite setup, knitting setup, create and import agreement, generate settlement, settle without review or settle with review, to check whatever the invoice is selected, is not selected, the status of the process, error, succeeded, warning, all of this. This section will explain how to create and import agreement, create, generate settlement, review, modify settlement, submit settlement, and download settlement to a spreadsheet. Also, you can reverse or delete settlement and review the knitting letter. Now we are going to make a practical example. As we said, create agreement, settlement, review settlement, submit settlement, download it, reverse or delete, and review knitting letter and reports. So let's start by the setup of the agreement and settlement. Let's go into application. Here you have 2 places you can go to agreement and settlement, either from payables, payment, or receivables and account receivables. If I go to from payables and payment, go to tasks on the right side, go down here, manage knitting agreement, manage knitting settlement. If you go to manage knitting agreement, you can search for any existing agreement. I already defined one. Search this agreement. So the agreement, as you know, what is a legal entity, what is the agreement name, start date, end date. Before Continue. What is a netting agreement? Netting agreement controls how a group of trading partner net payables and receivable transactions. You can create netting agreement for each group of trading partners that agree to the net transactions. Netting agreement include business rules that define the type of transactions that may be selected for netting and which suppliers and customers can be netted. This is the definition of the agreement. So when create a new agreement, there is 6 main points as you see here: business rules, preferences, additional information, what is a pay group, payable invoice types, receivable transaction types, trading partner, and letter. The netting agreement business rules and preferences indicate the high-level details and the preferences apply to your agreement between yourself and a trading partner. So here we said what is the legal entity, what is the agreement name, what is the start date for the agreement. This should reflect the contractual start date with the third party. Optionally, you can enter the end date for the agreement. Settlement can be only created for agreements provided the date of the settlement is within start date and end date. Therefore, if the agreement has come to an end between yourself and the third party, you must end date the agreement. This will prevent further netting settlements from taking place of the agreement, and it can no longer be used for processing netting. Netting preferences area. What is the netting bank account name? Only active bank accounts that have the netting account checked will be available for selection. What is the netting order rule? This rule indicates the priority in which transaction will be selected for netting. You will still have the opportunity to fine-tune the ordering of netting transactions once settlement has been selected for the EDFDI spreadsheet download. By default, due date from oldest to most recent. So this is if you want to clear transactions that are past or near the due date first. Ascending amount. Select this if you want to clear a large number of small transactions first. Descending amount if you want to clear the larger amount transaction first. Transaction date from oldest to most recent. So the select netting balance rule here. This rule determines the conditions when to net. If you want to restrict the netting to only take place when the balance of payables invoice is greater than the balance of receivable transaction, then choose net when payables is greater than receivables. Otherwise, select net always. Optionally, you can assign netting group to your agreement. Allow early settlement discount. Checkbox if you want to ensure that eligible discounts are applied to the amount. Netting currency rule. If you want to settle for invoices and transactions for a particular currency, for example USD, then you can set the netting currency rule to use single currency. You can then select the currency. If you have invoice and transactions for multiple currencies, you can select net within each currency. Invoice currency here depends on these options. The invoice currency will give you the options. As you see here, I use single currency and I put it my currency. Then the additional informations. Pay group, as we said before, if you want to allow the payables invoice to be available for a settlement, regardless of which pay group is assigned to the invoice, then choose all. This is the default option. Only include means you have a scenario where you want to restrict the invoices for selection to only those that belong to one or more paying group. Then select only include. Then the exclude, you have a scenario where you want to exclude invoices for selection to only those that belong to one or more paying groups. Then select only exclude. Payable invoice types by default is standard. You can add more as a debit memo or credit memo. Receivable transactions types also you can only include, you can only exclude. For example, I can include only invoice cash or whatever other transactions, or I can exclude specific a lot of transactions to exclude it from the netting agreement and settlement, or you can include all transactions. Trading partners, as you know, what is the suppliers for the netting, what is the customers. In this case, I defined two partners, one supplier netting and one customer netting, with the same site and bill to, ship to, the normal process for definition of supplier and customers. And also, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, that this is prerequisites to define the supplier and customers as a trading partners, because the netting will be between payables and receivables. Then the letters tabs allow you to configure how you want the netting letter to be distributed to your third party. The letter is confirmation to the third party that the invoices have been netted, listing all the invoices and transactions that were included in the netting amount. So I hope now to got overview of the netting agreement. What is the criteria here? Business rules, references, pay group, payable invoice type, receivables, trading partner, and letter. Save and close. Again, if you create a new one, the same data you have to fill it. Legal, agreement name, start date, what is the bank account netting, netting balance, rule, order rule, paying group, all of this. So this is the first one. Done. After you define this payment agreement, you can go to, before go to the netting settlements, I need to mention one option here for the importing netting agreement. Netting agreements can be also imported using the imported netting agreement FBDI spreadsheet. It is recommended you review the demonstrations that will be available in the document which I will share with you in the descriptions. A guidance, it will be download and import netting agreement, enter the agreement, create zip file, file import to the zip file, load interface file for import, and run import netting agreement process as a normal process for the FBDI. Again, the next step is manage netting settlement. Also, before the netting installments, I need to show with you that, as I told you before, I create customer as a customer netting and create supplier as a supplier netting. I entered one transaction for the customers with the invoice amount is 100,000 and entered one also invoice as a standard for this supplier netting 200,000. So I will make a netting or agreement between these two partners with these two amounts. So the net by the end that the supplier will have still liability 100,000. Settlement, you have two options, either create a new one from here or you can go direct to generate. If you need to create, You have to enter the legal entity for the first party. Only legal entities that have active agreements created for them will be available. Also, there are three methods for creating settlement: create all agreement, or specific netting group, and specific agreement. If you have a lot of agreements, you can select all agreements. If you perform for a specific agreement, you can come here and select your agreement, or you can select the netting group. Then settlement date. This is released to the date that the netting will occur. This cannot be a period date and it defaults to today's date. What is the settlement name? Will be default as a legal entity plus agreement option plus today's date. You can override this. If you wish to settle settlement without reviewing the content, then you select yes in the select settle without review. Then what is the transaction due date? All transactions will be selected in netting process provided their due dates are before or equal to the transaction due date. Therefore, you can use this to net based on when transactions should be due, avoiding late payment charge. Select the accounting date here. This for all the payments and receipts that are created will have this accounting date stamped on them. Conversion rate, as we said, this is the exchange rate that will be used when calculating any foreign currency transactions, gain and loss. For example, if your ledger currency may be GBP, but the transaction may be in euro, the default value will be derived from the receivables profile options AR underscore default exchange rate type. Once you enter all of these, you can save and close. The other options, you can go to process, schedule new process, and generate netting settlement. Once you enter and click OK, the same whatever I show you before, it will be come here. So let me now to generate one settlement for our agreement. This agreement between customer netting and supplier netting, and after that we will see if the system will select these two invoices or not. After that we can submit the settlement to check if the system will create a payment and receipt. So you have to go to from here the same, go to tools and schedule process. Once you schedule process, schedule new process, generate settlement, OK, enter the parameters. Here you have to select business unit or legal entity. You cannot select both. So I will select my legal entity. Netting group, I didn't define any netting group. Agreement, I know my agreement is agreement 1. This, we mentioned in it what is a payables transaction type, receivables, two partners or trading partners, what is the pay group if they're pay group. Schedule multiple times, no. Settlement date today, what is the name I will make? Partners. Settle without review, yes or no. Again, transaction date, due date, conversion, and conversion rate. Partners is wrong. I will take it, copy, go up, submit. Once you submit, there is one process was submitted. Okay, refresh here to check the status. it is succeeded. Once it is succeeded, you have to come back again to the netting settlement from payables or receivables, select or search by name or legal entity. Here, netting partners, what is the status is selected. Selected means you can download what the transactions is selected for this netting agreement. Open it. System will ask you to enter your username and password. Okay, to connect. Enter. As you see here, two tabs for receivables. Here, upgrade no. Receivables. Customer netting. Let me open my notepad. Sorry. Okay, no problem. Customer netting, we said 100,000. Here, payables amount 200,000, receivables, and proposed netting amount, the net between total of payables and receivables. As I mentioned here, for the customers 100,000 here, and for the payables I created one invoice as 200,000. If you go to payables, again it will invoke action. It will show you one invoice, the same supplier as I told you, supplier netting 200,000. You have the option to exclude from here. For example, if I have a lot of payable invoice, I can come here and exclude. Just double click here, then upload again settlement to reflect the changes. If you need to exclude specific transaction type for receivables, again you can come here and exclude from here or from receivable itself. I will show you after a moment in the Oracle receivables how to exclude specific transactions from the netting. Now this is a review of the settlement after the system selected the invoices. What is the options? You can do it here. You can go to actions. You can delete. You can submit. Reverse, after this is changed to settled, you can reverse. So all of these options you can do it for the settlement. If you now خلاص ensure that everything is okay, system selected everything, the next step is from action, submit, settlement. Submit, again one process submitted, go to schedule process to change the status. Again, status may be succeeded, but once you open the log file, you will find some errors. Also, to be honestly with you, there are a lot of errors showing for the netting, so I can make another video for the issues and how to resolve the issues. Here, status still running, succeeded. Again, come back to the settlement, make refresh. Status changed to settled. Settled means what? Means the net is done, the receipt is created, the payment is created. How to check that? Again, go to right, download. Again, open it, enter your username and password. System will give you a brief what happened. Again, payables and receivables. Here, the payment number is generated 2010. and here amount netted is 100,000. If you go to Receivables tab, you will see also receipt number generated 60181 and the amount netted in transaction and settlement currency. So this is the process of the netting. Sorry for that, it's too long setups and process and transactions. What is the you have only one action now. Once the status is be settled, you can come here and reverse. Reverse means everything will come back or the net will be reversed. Again, you can create a settlement or generate to select the same invoice or different invoice. I hope now you two got everything about this agreement. Now I will show you how to exclude specific transactions from receivables from the netting. Again, go to receivables, billing, select any transaction number. Once you select show more, go to down, select miscellaneous, go down, exclude from netting, either exclude or include. Once you checkbox, it means exclude or this is include. Let's go back to our slide. So now create how to generate, review, modify, submit, download as a spreadsheet, reverse, delete, and review or review the netting letter. Review the netting letter here from the process, here the netting statement letter. Just go down to check the output. I don't know is it working or not, but anyway, let me publish it. HTML. Here the letter. So if you enabled it, you can send it to the trading partner, whatever is selected for the payables and receivables, what is the partner name. The next slide is a thank you. Thanks for watching. I hope to subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have any questions or any issues, I know once you create or try to generate the agreement, you will get error. Once you get error, you have to open the log file and take the error message. Just simple search in Google, you will find a lot of solutions. Else you can ask me and I will assist you. Thank you.